Okay, here we are ready for our 49th film in the series Pattern of the Month. Bit crazy. Do you need 49 different patterns? I don't know, but it's for sure is fun, and sometimes it's good to have a lot of stuff. And look at this. It's messy on the table. This is the table I use only for filming, and we have some older ones here. We have the Mikael blue flash wing, some lion pigs, last week's or last month acroyd, and today we're gonna do something totally different. I try to vary patterns and techniques, a bit classical but also a bit emotional maybe for me, because what we're gonna tie is a classic fly, not the way they were tied back in the days, but one of the patterns that I started fishing when I was really young. And it's actually the pattern or the fly I hooked my first sea trout on, 13 years old, the Durham Ranger. And the classic fly here is quite a big one, and the classic fly is slim like this, and it's very dead, I would say. It's a fly that wouldn't swim that good, but we're gonna tie it in a different way, tie a harrowing version of this what I think fantastic fly, and a fly that I think is fishing a lot better, a fly that's really good when it comes to humus colored waters. A bit different, right? And yeah, so breathe, get rid of all these old memories of the old days, walking in ice cold waters as a teenager, hoping for that take. Now I'm walking around hoping the same with a big gray beard. Okay, so let's start tying then. Okay, so this fly I'm gonna tie with two quite colorful tubes, the yellow medium and the extra small fluorescent orange one. And the yellow one, I picked that because I take up the tag from the classic flies. I get a little yellow in the back, and the orange one is to pick up the colors of the fly and give a good contrast against the cone. That's going to be black. So a little bit of the thoughts here, and I start by cutting this, and there's always, but I get a lot of questions on how big should this be? How big should the tubing be compared to the fly? And what you should think of, I think, is that you need to have the hook to be in the center of the fly. On the classic flies, the hook was in the rear end like this, and especially on a big one, they grab it from the side like this, and sometimes the hook will be on the outside and you don't hook the fish as good. It's better to get the hook to be center of the fly, meaning that when the fish grab from side, it's going to be hooked probably a bit better. So I take this and I cut it off, cut a little angle on the medium one, and I do the same on the orange, and I just make sure that the orange goes quite far inside the yellow, so when I use my thread, the yellow will grab the orange and hold it. And I've talked about these who's been copying my tubing system, and they do it with a lot stiffer tubes, meaning that what happens is that it's easy that the fly will break, and especially on the extra small one where you have the cone that can work a little bit into the plastic and break it. Fitz is very soft compared to most, and very flexible, so we don't get that problem. A lot of talk, a lot of coffee. Okay, so what we do is that we start like I do on a lot of my flies with a bit of mirage, using the black thread on the yellow. I will knot back the thread so it's seen through the mirage. Just start back down the mirage over the bare tube, and the mirage will pick up the color of the tubing. Makes it really nice, I think. Okay, and the tail, and we're gonna use a craft fur today, and use a bit different tails, also working with my own material, trying to learn from before, not showing you too much secrets before it's actually on the market. A little bit every now and then, but not too much. Okay, looking at this, and I taper this also by pulling it down, and looking at the tail, and this is instead of the crest feather. We have a storm today, maybe you can hear it. It's windy as hell outside. Okay, so I take this and I tie it in on the top, back down to the edge of the mirage, and take this away. And when I cut it, instead of cutting like that, I can cut it like this. If I cut it like that, it's going to be different length of material under the body, and it's easier to just hide it from the ready fly. How does that look? Normally you have to cut it a little bit, and when I taper a tail, I do it from underneath, put in the scissor, cut and pull, so I get the longest fibers on the top. Okay, I'm gonna do this with a little classic touch. So most classic flies, they have an ostrich herl as a butt. Some of the very old flies have Berlin wool or a wool one. I use my SSS dubbing, and what I do is that I just put a little dubbing on and make a little butt like this. Move the material in front of that. I have a tendency to put all on the table, and that's why it's so messy. Better to put it back in the bag. Okay, like that. Does it look okay? I think it looks okay. So we're going to use braid, and I'm bragging over our SOS, where you can have good order on your stuff, and it's really good actually. And getting so old I forgot I already put this stuff here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to use two braids, one for body and one for ribbing. And we're going to use the orange one, the orange hollow braid, and the silver hollow braid. And I always try to start tying in the one that's supposed to be ribbing, and I tie it in underneath. And then I take the body material and I tie it in underneath and back down before I go front. And now I'm going to have quite a few different materials here. So what I do is that I careful with the length of those. And when it comes to the braid, it's not that important, but it's very, very, very often you tie and your first and second part of the body will be a little too long and it'll be a little too little in the front. It's better actually to do it the opposite way, because the wing will cover some of the front part of the body. It's now time for dubbing, and I will use 3 different colors. That's the hair, too early for that. I'm going to do a bit of orange and a bit of red and a bit of black. So this part is now going to be divided into 3 parts, meaning I need to be a bit careful, not taking too much. And as you see, this is almost half the body, so I'll start by backing down this a little bit. And maybe I'm tying a fly that will be some 8 centimeters or so. Do the first part, do the red, and our dubbing is really easy to dub on, and you can see that I use our dubbing, not our glitz here. The reason for that is that I don't want this to be too flashy or too bulky. What you can do is that you can do a bit of dubbing and then you can add a bit of glitz in front, especially if you tie big flies. Okay. Classic approach, but with some modern materials. Go back on the black. And when I do this, I need to save enough tubing to put the wing on. I want to have most of my wing, or most of the material here in the front, on the medium tubing. And as you can see, I try to make this grow, meaning I try to make it heavier in the front, saving about 4 mil. Always when I pick materials too is to have this tapering form also on the body. And actually I must say that the Durham Ranger body with the body hackle is one of the most beautiful color combinations on a classic fly. Now it's so much stuff here I can't really see where I put my, here we go. My hackles, we're going to use orange dyed badger, and be careful not to take a too big a feather. A too big feather means this will not taper so much, and I try to tie it in, so I use quite a long way back on the feather. This part is even, and then comes the tapering, and I want to use the tapering, and I tie it in underneath. Here it's quite important to use to tie it in underneath, because I'm gonna have so much stuff on the top, so it's better to use that space there. When I tie body hackles, I always start with 1 turn before I back down, and picking the right size of feather, holding this, it should not be much left. Then I spin this and cross over. And since this is for being a tube, it's a quite small one, I spin this hard and I pull it down hard, crossing over every turn. And this is to make a really strong fly. Instead of cutting this, I'll work my thread a little front, and I twist it back, and I double it back. Again underneath, because I don't want to use the space I have on the top. And you can see I used almost all the feather, just a little tip there. Take the meanest brush in the world, there you go, and brush it down. And I can brush the dubbing quite hard, a little harder than I brush my glitz, because the fibers are shorter and it takes a bit more, be a bit more violent to just have those fibers mix together with my hackle like that. Looking good? I think it looks good. Okay, so looking into this fly, and I said I don't want it to be too flashy, so instead of putting that layer of flash that I normally do under the wing, I don't. I go on to the hair wing immediately, and I pick a shorter hair. Let's see what we have here. I want it to be the biggest part of the wing. I'm going to tie in 2 hair wing bunches, and I want the second one to be smaller than the first, and I brush it through, take away this soft part, and I then untangle, like just pulling this through the brush, untangling it, and you can see how even this is, meaning I will not have a very nicely tapered wing. So I move my fingers up, and then I pull out, and I taper this like that. Good? Yes. Pad 1 centimeter, hold it in. Looks it's about the same length as the underwing, a little longer there, or same wing as the tail, sorry. And I tie it in. And normally there are materials sliding down on the back side. I take this and I pull it up a little bit. A little more. If I have a few strands, I can just take them away. Looking at this, remembering that I want the wing to be wide like this. The fish will see it from down here. It's good. I think it's good. And I can secure it back to where I have my hackles, and I cut this off. Here we go. And the little trick I'm going to use here to make this look like a Durham reindeer is that I'm going to stripe it with a pen. But I'm going to first make this wing, put on a little more material, and then I will take it out of the vise and stripe it. Of course you can stripe it in the vise, but it's more complicated. Few strands of Alta Gold angel hair, hold them wide, so they're seen both sides of the wing. Tie them in 1 or 2 turns, double back, couple of turns, and then I can taper this by cutting and pulling. If I get 1 or 2 strands too long, I can do it afterwards. Okay, so one of the most typical things on a Durham Ranger are these 2 long jungle cocks. And if you look at the classic fly, they are put inside the tippet feathers, but I'm doing it a little differently. I will put them on outside the first part of my wing, and I form them with my thumbnail to get right curve and right curve, and I look so I get these to be long. They should stretch back almost the full first wing, and I always start with one on my side like this and tie it in. Always cut before you tie the other feather in, otherwise you might start to move that. And form the second one too. Hold it in, make sure they have the same length. And tie it in. You good? Maybe this second feather is a little too high up. I can take my thumbnail and just press it down a little bit. If that's not possible, I will take it loose. But I think I'll do that actually. It's always better to tie fewer good looking flies than to end up with a box of flies where with flies you don't want to fish. Does that look good? Looks good to me. It's very easy to think that, okay, I'll do it better next time. And then you end up with a box and you come out on the river and you look and there's nothing you think is perfect and nothing you really want to fish. Okay, so now I'm going to start hackling here, front hackling, and here I have to think, because I will do 2 front hackles and I will have 2 more wings on top. And since I'm going to use a half turbo, I need to be a bit careful with how much material I can hide in the cone. So here you can use different. I had a few heron hackles here. I was almost wanting to use those, but I'm going to use a schlappen feather. They are quite soft and they have long fibers, and they have many fibers per inch material. I'm looking at this and I want it to be quite long, otherwise the hackle won't do any good. And how much? Depending on the diameter, but I would say I need about 2 centimeters of feather. So I formed this little triangle, use support by my fingers, cut it off, and this little triangle is what I tie in, and I tie it in underneath. Few turns. No, don't want to back down on the extra small yet, it's a bit too early. Twist it so I'm sure I get all the fibers to come on the right side. 3 fingers, hold it in double, holding back the fibers that I want to tie in, and do the 2 turns. And the thing also with the slappen is that it's got quite a lot of volume to the fibers. They are a bit fat, greasy too, but that will disappear. Okay, looking good. First little front tackle, and you can see it's a lot longer than it should be on the traditional fly, but this is because I want to create drop form and volume. Now I'll take the second bunch of hair, again orange, treat it the same way, brush it through, untangle, and here I have hair with a lot better tapering. Can actually take away a couple of the longest ones, looking so I get a nice taper. Spread it and tie it in. I want to do this, still want to be on the medium, be a bit tricky maybe. Here we go. I can take this and I can pull it up again, a bit like this. Am I right? Sliding down a little bit, correcting. But the wing should also be tied in, so the jungle cock will come in in the wing, not in front of the wing. And cut this off. Now I use a little bit of glue and a little bit of glue just to put it here. I use support with my fingers and I glue this. Careful so I don't get it in the hackles and not too much in the wing. And now I can wait about 1, 2, 3 seconds and I don't need this. So I'm taking away the thread, and if you need a bit of space, what I do is that I take a white paper or just a piece of paper, and I will now use the marker and stripe this. And how many stripes should we have? Where is it now? You look at the classic fly, it's got 4 there. What I do, I normally do 4 or 5, because my wing is a lot longer. Otherwise I will have a bare tip of orange hair. So I'll stripe it 5 times. Okay, is this ready? Take it out of the vise. Hold it down on the paper and make sure that it's flat. And then I use the marker and I stripe this. And I have to stripe it both sides, because the marker won't take it won't go through enough. Maybe I was a little uneven here, and I turn the fly and I stripe it again. Try not to stripe the jungle cocks. Make sure it's striped all the way through. Looks pretty good. I was doing them maybe a little uneven, but that's how it is. The fish will come up and say, hey, that's not even, I don't want that fly. Okay, so the fly is back in the vise, and I will just put on the thread again. Just backing over the thread is all I need to fasten it. And then I have one more wing to put on and one more hackle to put on, and I can use any light blue body feather from a cock or hen, and I can use a regular cock's hackle, but I can also use this little bit of PR for our pheasant feathers, pheasant rump feathers, and they look almost like a little heron hackle, and I'm gonna use one now. I think in our packs we put some regular cock's hackles, but you know, if you want to try pheasant, we have them in the shop. And I treat this, it's quite long this, but I prefer to have a longer hackle. This will be too long for the traditional classic approach of the fly, but for a fishing fly, I think the kind of heron hackled wing is better. So I take this, tie it in again underneath, and I will double it a couple of turns. Get all the fibers to the right side here now, and get the blue in front of the black, and use my fingers doubling it, tie it in, get all the fibers to come one side, and make sure I have it close to the wing, and do my 2 turns. Here you can of course use a hackle plier, and the good thing with ours is that it's heavy enough to let go of this feather. I'm used to tie most of my hackles without the plier. Maybe because when you tie commercially you need to be pretty fast too. Does it look good? I think it looks okay. Make sure these are spread so I get even amount both sides, and I just press them down. Now I'm gonna pimp this a little bit with the sides, and I'm even gonna do horns, which is not common on a fishing fly, but it's a little extra. And what I do now is I do my jungle cocks, because on my version of this fly there are double jungle cocks, and I think I have my sight is here, and I travel with this. That's why it looks like this. Always do this legally. And I picked 2 quite small feathers, and I pick one each side of the cape. It's easier to get one with the right form, picking the one each side. And I always start with the one on my side, tying this in short so the other feather is seen, the full feather. Put down the hackles, hold it in, and tie it in. The jungle cock needs very few turns. Just 3 or 4 I need to fasten that with. One more here. Looking good, and if it looks good my side, maybe I should ask you guys to come over here, because here it looks fantastic. Let's see. And what I do is that I put this in. Look so I get them even length and tie it in. Sliding down a little bit on your side, maybe too much, we'll see. No, I think that looks pretty nice actually. And I cut it off. I have to be very careful here when it comes to hiding materials in this little cone that I'm gonna put on. Now I'm just gonna top this with a little black and very few strands. And I want the soft hair. And treat it the same way with my little brush, just taking away some of the pieces I don't want and untangle it. Look at the tapering and tie it in quite wide, just like a little roof. Make sure this now, too short, is long enough to follow to the longest parts of the orange hair, and I tie it in careful and putting the thread on top of each other, not sliding them down in front of each other, just a few strands on top like that. Looks good. And I take this and I lift it, push it and cut it. Good scissor is a must in all tying, and when you come to putting in this much material, it's very important. Okay, just a little, what do we do? Yellow dyed, natural dyed peacock, and I take just 3 to 5 strands. These are maybe too many, but I will take away if I need to take away, or try to avoid the broken ones. Make sure these are now as long as the black, and I will tie these in at the same time, because I can't tie them in dividing them, because then I will have too much thread. Cut it off. Make sure to have this really clean. Here's one twisting, and since I tied in many, I can take it away and throw it away, or I can just think that I can use a little more thread, 1 or 2 turns, tie that in again. Here we go, looking okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to put on cheeks, and cheeks can be tied in with many different materials, but I just want a little bit of blue. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use just 2 blue, is this twisting the right way? 2 blue hen or cock feathers. The classic fly had blue chatterers, but we're not going to use that on a fishing fly. And you see how I formed this, so it'll be the right size for me. Take away a few more. Look so it will sit a little bit over the jungle cock. That's all I want. Like that. Looks good. And I tie it in. And again, careful with the thread. And cut away. Like that. Do the same the other side. Same size. Is it worth all this hassle for a fishing fly, I think? I think it's a pleasure to tie on a fly. A little bit maybe. That is complete copy of the classic one in all aspects. Tie this in. Looks like it's quite even. Okay, and then I cut this off and make sure it's quite clean here. It's always dangerous to work the scissors close to the thread like this, but here we go. So, more stuff. Let's put on horns, and horns are blue and yellow macaw parrot, but I'm just gonna use one of our peacock, and I just take one strand here and put it outside, one each side of the feather. We go, and now I'm gonna put it outside this. Maybe I should have a darker blue one, but I don't have one. That is bleached and dyed dark blue, so it's going to be the light blue. And I take it, and this I have to form a little bit, if you don't want to have it like that. And I tie it in right on top of the blue little hackle feather like that. Cut again. One more. Make sure this is now even in length, and they don't have to go all the way, but I want to have them equal like that, and tie it in. 2 turns is enough. Is it in the right position? Yeah, I think it is. Picky. Okay, done. Is it worth it? I don't know. You look at the pick this fly out of your box, you will think, wow, that looks good. I want to fish that. Okay, glue, and then end up with the cone, and the cone has very little space, and I will have to push this hard to get this over the material I have there. It's not going to hide it perfect, but almost. Little glue, use support. Make sure that the glue now picks up the material on the sides. All these small things picks up some glue. And I put a little bit of glue right on the tubing. And then I'm pretty fast taking this and pressing this down. Always better to pull this down with the fly out of the vise. Okay, and the good thing with the metal cone is that it will cover the thread and make this part really strong. And I will cut it, and then I will melt it. and I melt it down, holding it up, making sure that the plastic will hold the cone a little more so it gets really close to the cone, like that. Okay, Durham Ranger. Does it look good? I think it looks good actually. I'll fish this with the nicest color combo there is here. Is it worth it? I've said it 3 times now, but it takes like 3 times as long to put all these extra stuff on. When you get a fly that will fish just as good as without this, but it looks good. And to have a good looking fly is also, I think, very important to me. And also, fly tying is more than just tying a fly to catch a fish on. And for me, to keep the tradition in a way, it's quite nice. Okay, a lot of talk, a lot of materials, and we ended up with a pretty cool fly, I think. And I must thank you for watching. And of course you can buy the materials for this in our pack. We have a pack, no pack, just the sticker from the pack. But we have our pattern packs and also our fly packs that you can get. And next time it's going to be our 50th little film, and I will have to figure out something that will be special for the May edition of our pattern of the month. So, Durham Ranger, thank you for watching.